Our subject today is revealed by fire. Life hurts. Get a reward for it. I like that idea, that concept, because we all go through struggles. We all go through trials. That is part of life. You can't hide from pain and suffering. I don't care where you try to hide, it's going to find you. You can hide under your bed, it'll find you. Try to hide behind the curtain, it'll come find you. There's no way to get away from it. So the thing to do is to look it straight in the eye and go, okay, what good can I get out of this? If you're going to have to go through it, and a lot of you are, then you might as well get a reward for it. I think that's a great perspective. Everything has something it can teach you, even when it does hurt. So our character is not born during the crisis. Our character is revealed in the crisis, and we find out how strong and how faithful somebody really is. There are people who we think are really faithful, and we just have this great opinion of them, and I encourage you to hold great opinions of other people. But then all of a sudden in a time of crisis, it becomes evident that that was just a facade and the depth of spirituality really was not there. And that is a valuable thing for them to learn. It's also something for us to learn from by example. So in 1 Corinthians 3:13, Paul said, each one's work will become evident, for the day will show it, because it is to be revealed with fire, and the fire itself will test the quality of each one's work. And it is a refining fire. We are in the crucible. We are always going through the crucible, and the crucible is not our enemy. The crucible is our friend. The crucible is helping us find out what is valuable and worth keeping within us, and what needs to be set aside and left behind, so that we can, as we sing in the song, press on the upward way, new heights I'm gaining day by day. Well, until we learn what we have to leave behind and let go of so that we can press on the upward way, it's not going to happen. And so if we're really, really honestly going to be improving, then the crucible, again, it's not an enemy. It's not something to run from, but rather it is something to embrace so that we can become more and more like Christ, which is the purpose of Christianity. The purpose of Christianity is not just to avoid hell. Do you get to avoid hell by being a Christian? Say, yeah, sure do. Well, that's a benefit. That's a great thing. But that's not the only thing. What we do in Christianity is we begin as babes in Christ. We desire the sincere milk of the Word. And then over a period of time, by reason of use, having our senses exercised, we grow to the point where we can handle, as the Hebrew writer would call it, the meat of the Word. And that's a growing process. Or that is the crucible. And so the purpose is not just, oh, I don't want to go to hell. That's rather obvious anyway. And who wants to go to hell? The purpose is to learn to be imitators of Christ. It is how I sometimes refer to it as being a spiritual athlete. And Christ, of course, is the hero that we're modeling in that regard. So we're going to reach beyond just enduring the suffering, which I think is what a lot of folks do. They just keep counting the days till they can say, well, that's behind us. You don't want to just do that. You want to actively participate in the process. Whatever's going on, whether it's a little irritation or a great big one, and there are some big ones in life, what you want to do is go, okay, what is God trying to teach me here? What can I learn here? What is this revealing in me? Let's take it just as simple as you're sitting there on the pew, you're looking at your watch going, man, I hope he quits by 5 till. Okay, you're in the crucible. You're in an uncomfortable situation. Now, what is God trying to teach you there? What can you learn from that? And I know the easy answer is the preacher ought to quit at 10 till. But that's not what you need to be learning. If we're going to become more and more like Christ, and we're going to participate in the process, and so whether we're just talking about something that is rather trivial, or we're talking about the bigger struggles of life, the question is, what is God trying to teach me? What is the dross that I need to burn away? How can I become pure gold through this process and more Christ-like and more spiritual? Philippians 2:12, He says, work out your own salvation. So now there's your participation. There's your part. You have a role in it. I know we have some friends in the broader religious community that want to just focus on the second part that I've highlighted, God who is at work in you, and say God does it all. No, God has his part, and we have our part. And it's a participatory relationship. So if we were to use the athlete analogy, the coach has his part, right? And the athlete has his part. And the athlete can't say, well, it's all entirely upon the coach. It's all his business whether I play good or not, because the coach can't actually practice for the athlete. The coach can tell the athlete things, and the coach can say, I see some things. And interestingly, the highest, most successful athletes all still need a coach. They never outgrow the need for that external source that can give them positive feedback so that they can stay at the top of their game. I think that's an interesting thing. So God's doing his part. He gives us our coaching, if you would, through the word and through people who are more experienced than us. And then we listen to that, and we, as these spiritual athletes, get out on the field and we do our part. So life is going to provide the fires. Don't go starting fires, because, man, life is going to provide them. Then God's going to provide the plan, and then we're going to provide the cooperation. We're going to get those three parts together. And when they come together with enthusiasm, it's a wonderful thing. So let me do a little thing aside on the enthusiasm. So you have kids that get into a sport, and they're enthusiastic. Make it football, baseball, make it whatever you want. And they're like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to master this. You just watch me. I'm going to be the best there ever was. Incidentally, that's basically Kobe Bryant's story. Don't want to get off into details, but when he was young, he wasn't that really good. In fact, he went one season when he was like 11, 12 years old and never scored a point. Now, when you talk about Kobe Bryant in basketball, you think of a hero. There's that enthusiasm, that dedication that I'm going to get this. I don't know how far I can go, but I'm going to see how far I can go. And then you have other kids that get in the sport and they want to sit on the bench. They want to be the B string, the C string, the D string, or whatever, because the last thing they really want to do is get out there on the field and really have to work at it. So they really just want to be, to use an old term, wallflowers. Now, all you want to be is a wallflower, you're never going to get it. You're never going to have the exhilaration of the victory and the triumph and the progress. But if we provide the cooperation enthusiastically and we understand what it is we're trying to do, we're not trying just to have a perfect Sunday attendance. We're not just trying to read through the Bible once a year. Those are good things, but the purpose of them is to work out our own salvation. But I'm afraid that doesn't say it enough, because we go, well, I'm saved. What I got to work for? Are you holy as God is holy? Are you fully imitating Christ in every area of your life? You see, salvation is not just, I got dunked in the water. I put Christ on in baptism. Absolutely a necessary step. But that wasn't the end. That was the beginning. We came up out of the water as babes, needing the sincere milk of the word by which we could grow. Unfortunately, too many people see baptism as the stopping point, not the starting point. And then when life gets tough, they think, oh, God doesn't like me. God must not be happy with me because I'm suffering. Now, we won't run off into it, but in Hebrews 12, he says, no, the ones God loves, he disciplines. So how does this look in daily life? Let's say just rather quickly. The big things, there are losses, major losses, and we're talking about things that change the trajectory of your life. That after you hit one of these, your life will never be the same again. These are the big things we're talking about, and they come in a lot of different fashions. Then there's those temptations that test our integrity, and those can be anything. Those can be from I'm at work and the boss wants me to sign off on a report that I know is false and a lie, and he's just sending the paperwork up the ladder so it looks good by the time it gets to wherever it gets. This can be just little integrity choices where nobody else is watching. Nobody else will ever know if you don't tell them, but God knows. That's a fire. They're all part of the fire that bring our dross to the surface. And then there's just the mundane responsibilities of life where we let our light shine. And sometimes all of this can feel really overwhelming, but it's inescapable. If it were escapable, I advocate that in 6,000 years of human history, we would have already found a way to escape it and bypass it. But in 6,000 years, with every imaginary attempt at spirituality and religion you can imagine, no one has figured out how to escape the fires, the trials, the struggles, the difficulties, the unpleasantries of life. They're just part of life. Now, if you can figure it out, you'll be the first out of 106 billion people to ever do it. And I'm not saying don't figure it out. Let me know. We'll write a book on it. You'll get rich or something. But you're going to go through it. So if you're going to go through it, what did we say in the beginning? You might as well get a reward for it. You might as well get the training. So in 1 Peter 1, starting at verse 6, leave out a little part there in the middle. You'll notice the ellipsis. In this you greatly rejoice, even though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been distressed by various trials, so that the proof of your faith, which goes on to say maybe is more precious than gold, may be found to result in praise, glory, and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So we're going to be distressed by various trials. Again, you're not going to avoid those. What we want to do is we want to go through them. We want to engage them with an open mind, an open heart, with a game plan, scriptural, on how am I going to get through this one and come out better on the other side and enjoy the progress of my spiritual development. If you can tune into that, if you can learn to feel that, you're really ahead of most of the crowd. And that word progress will come up again later on in the lesson or the second lesson, because progress is really what we need to feel. Anthony Robinson says it this way. He's just a motivational speaker, but he says, if you want to be happy, the one thing you need is progress. I'll agree with that. What you need is progress. And in your spirituality, what you need is to be able to see, whether others see it or not, that's not the point. You need to be able to see, are you making spiritual progress? Are you really basically the same you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, except you're older? That's not progress. But if you can identify even those consistent baby steps forward, that's progress. And if your heart is centered upon imitating Jesus and becoming holy as God is holy and being the best spiritual athlete you can be, then that progress will make you happy. And the neat thing is that happiness will feed back into the future efforts you're going to make, and it's going to fuel you. It's going to make you stronger going forward. So our true character comes out in the times of the trials. Nothing is hidden that will not become evident, or anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Everything's coming to the surface sooner or later. Ecclesiastes 12:13, he says, every secret thing will be revealed. That may be verse 14, but every secret thing's coming to light. So sooner or later it's coming to light. The trick here is I want it to be sooner. I want it to be sooner. Now, it doesn't have to be coming to light like in a public way. Now, in the day of judgment, it may be that. But right now, the light I'm looking for is to get it within the light of my own attention. To get it in the light of my own attention so I can identify it and I can address it. I can do something with it in my own life. And whatever it is you're dealing with, that's the same thing you want. You want whatever dross that needs to be burned away in the spotlight of your own attention. Whether you include somebody else in on that or not, that's your business. It is not wrong to get counsel. It is biblical to get counsel. James 5:16 says, confess your trespasses one to another. So getting help with what you're struggling with, if you're comfortable getting that help, is a really wise idea. But better sooner to get it right there in the spotlight and go, here is where I think I'm struggling. Let me hop on this thing and take care of it, rather than to keep burying it under the carpet or shoving it into the back of the closet. Get in the judgment day and God goes, whoa, wait a minute. We've got some stuff under the rug here we need to look at. And there's all that stuff you keep stuffing to the back of your spiritual closet that we need to look at. You don't want that to happen. You want to have the closet clean and be able to lift up the rug and go, there's nothing hiding under there. So the goal that God has in mind is going to be achieved. And basically his goal is to separate the sheep from the goats. Now, a goat is not a sheep just because he says he's a sheep, or everybody else says he's a sheep. I get a pet goat, and I tell everybody it's a lamb. And everybody decides, well, we're not going to mess with Clarence. He's a little bit slow. Let's just agree that it's a lamb. Is it a lamb? It's a goat. I don't care if everybody in the world says, no, that's a sheep. That's one of his lambs. No, it's a goat. And sooner or later, it's going to become a reality spiritually, whether we're of his sheep or we're a goat. God's purpose is going to be achieved. He will separate the gold from the dross, the lambs from the goats, and so on and so forth. The question is, will we be counted among the faithful, or will we be counted among the rebellious? And the beautiful thing about that question is, it's our choice. We get to decide. And we decide not by what comes out of our mouth, but we decide by what we bring into the spotlight of our attention and deal with. And that takes courage. And that one always puzzles me because it takes a lot of courage, and yet what I'm talking about is totally private, and you don't have to share it with anyone. You can do it all in the privacy of your heart between you and your Father in heaven. And yet in that safety, that sanctuary of privacy, many people will never get in there and address it. They just won't do it. It's too easy to go, oh, no, that's really not the thing. That really doesn't count. No, that's really not what I'm dealing with. My real problem is who's sitting in the White House at Washington. My real problem is what Hollywood's doing. And it's so much easier to start pointing the fingers outside. Well, hon, if your spirituality depends on what's going on outside of you, you're going to hell in the story. You don't have a chance. Think about it. One more time. If your spirituality depends on what's going on in Washington or Hollywood or New York or Madison Avenue or Chicago, you don't have a chance of going to heaven. You might as well go ahead and invest in asbestos or fire insurance or something, because you're going to hell. But if it depends on what's inside of you and what you choose to do with what's inside of you, and work through it, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, and you have every opportunity to go to heaven. And that's a wonderful blessing. So our fires are going to reveal the truth. The fire really doesn't care about the pretense, what you pretend to be. When it happens, we're going to find out what a person really was. Now, they can fake it out in public a bit. I get that. We won't worry about that right now. Job said, when he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. That's the attitude. I know I'm going to go through a fire. I know I'm going to hurt. I know I'm going to bumble and stumble a little bit. That's okay too. But when I get on the other side of that struggle, I'm going to come out as gold. So the fire is going to reveal what's really genuine inside of us, what's really authentic, and we're going to see if we're willing to look what's not. And it's going to let us know, did I build on the sand or have I built on the solid rock? And that's something that we need to look at. I don't think any of this is meant for shame. I think it's meant for growth. And that's an interesting distinction to make. So one of the things we have done wrong in religion in general is we have approached the faults, the falling shorts, the sins of people And we really just wanted to shame them into behavior. There's appropriate place for shame, but it ought not to be the main way to do it. If this is spiritual athleticism, then you want a coach that is teaching you to become your best. And when you do something, if he shames you and belittles you and beats you down over and over and over, and all it is a toxic relationship, you're really not going to become your best. You're not going to stay under that coach if you're wise. But if he is there instructing and teaching and informing and helping you become your best without belittling and ridiculing and, just kicking you in the shins, there's a difference. It's that discipline you got from mom when she was angry and you knew she was angry and she was just acting out her own frustration, and that discipline you got when you knew you needed it and you deserved it. And those are the ones you look back on and go, I appreciate it, because what I was taught through discipline as a child made me the man or woman I am today. But abuse didn't work the same way, did it? And some of it's a little hard to differentiate. So as we go through the fires, I want you to look at it as God's way of saying, I see some gold in you, I see some value, I see some deeper things that we can bring out, and I'm trying to bring them out. And he is. It's all training. Different fires we face. Let's hit this one rather quickly. We're just going to go through different levels of suffering. And whatever it is in your life, it's your suffering. Don't compare it to someone else. Once you start playing the comparison game, you've lost it. There's no value in the comparison game. Well, you just don't know what I went through as a kid. No, I don't. Does that make you feel all better? Did that heal anything? No. Okay, well, I don't know what you went through as a kid. I tell you what, let's go down to the coffee shop and we'll get a pot of coffee and we'll just sit at the table until you tell me every single detail of what you went through as a kid and every bit of how you felt about it and how unjust and wrong and evil and wicked it was. And we'll just make a note. We'll fill up notebook pages. Let's do this for 6 weeks if we have to. Now are you healed? Is it all gone now? No, it's not. Don't play the comparison game. That's just a waste of time. It's Satan's way of playing the old Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope. That's all it is. So what we're going to go is we're going to go into our sufferings. We're going to say, these are mine, whatever they are. These are mine. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trials. Once he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him. So we're going to get at our sufferings, whatever they are, and go, okay, this one's mine. This is what's unfolding in my life. Now let me deal with it. Then there's temptations. We won't stay here long. No temptations overtaking you, but such as a common to man. So you're being tempted to do something. Think of it. It doesn't have to be major. I'm not talking about like robbing a bank or, anything really crazy. Just, temptation. Tell a little, what we call them? We call them white lies. You're just going to tell a little white lie. That's the temptation, which is a neat little way of trying to justify sin. No temptation's overtaken. There's a way around that white lie. Now, sometimes the way around that so-called white lie is, wow, what if I just told the truth? Well, I can't tell the truth. What would people think of me if they knew the truth? Well, okay, then you can keep that dross if you want to keep that dross, but you're not doing what Christianity was designed to do. And then just the trials of responsibility, the common repetitive, I call them the mundane, because the reality is most of our life is mundane repetition. One of the things that disillusions graduates is whether it's high school or college graduation, you've got the different speakers that come up to the podium and they tell you how wonderful life is going to be and all the possibilities out there, and you can be anything you want to be. Well, that's hogwash number one. You cannot be anything you want to be. There are too many other factors in there. Now, there's a lot of opportunities in life and you can make a whole lot out of it, but you can't be anything you want to be. Sorry. You want to be a famous singer? You better be able to sing. Because if people aren't going to buy your records, you can't sing your MP3s now. If they're not going to stream you live, right? I don't care. You can't be anything you want to be. But one of my favorite, one of those graduation speakers at college, he said, what they don't tell you is most of your life is going to be repetitive, mundane, day in and day out. And then there are going to be some lower spots, and there are going to be some high spots. But most of your life is getting up in the morning, brush your teeth, drinking your coffee, going through a daily routine, coming home, winding down, going to bed, getting ready to get up the next day and do all the same thing over and over. And you may do that for weeks and months and years before you have one of those high spots come into life. That's a trial. That's one of the fires. Can you maintain your fidelity and your spiritual growth in the mundaneness of life? What will it reveal about your maturity, your selfishness, your steadfastness, your devotion, your ability to do things? And I have to put Colossians 3:23 in here. Can you make whatever you do it heartily as unto the Lord? Now, this was written to servants. So if you put it in context, they were to do whatever they did in their servitude as though they were doing it for God, not as though they were doing it for men. And just think of the mundane, repetitive, daily chores they did over and over again 1,000 times. And Paul said, it's okay. I want you to carry out the trash like you're carrying it out for the Lord. I want you to hoe that garden like you're hoeing it for Jesus. I want you to wash your master's feet like you're washing Jesus' feet. You get the drift? That's a fire. That's most alike. So we have a very active role. This is work out your salvation with fear and trembling. So we're going to come in there with some enthusiasm, if you would, some serious respect. And we want to actively remove what hinders us. Now, sometimes life's just going to slap us and make us look at something, but I would much rather be on the outlook for it and have a progressive assessing process that I go through and put to death what is earthly in you. Now, this is the ESV version. I checked several. And ESV is still on the conservative, very conservative end. You put the New American Standard, it usually gets the most conservative rating. Then you get the King James, New King James, and ESV. They just bump up there so close together, it's really kind of hard to tell the difference. But as you compare the ESV wording to your New American Standard, New King James, your King James, just like the way it says it here. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you. Get rid of it. That's the dross. Let life bring it into the spotlight of your own private attention, and then let that fire of life, however you want to define all that, prune away the dead weight so that you can keep pressing on the upward way, new heights I'm gaining day by day. Purposely pursue what makes you stronger. Really, really do it. Research it, study it, read devotionals wherever you need to go. Look up sermons online. There are more sermons online you can listen to in a multiple of lifetimes. Just keep diligently digging for it, because there is a better version of you in the future. And you can bring that better version into reality by doing all that we've been talking about. So better to be refined today than exposed later. We're all going to appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may be recompensed for the deeds done in the body according to what he's done, whether good or bad. Were we lukewarm? Were we lazy about it? Were we hiding from it? Were we in denial? We're going to give an account for that. Were we enthusiastic? Were we focused? Were we really, really looking for those things that would carry us on ahead? Don't delay it. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Wouldn't argue that for a moment. Let me ask you, which is going to be more uncomfortable? The process of bringing that into your attention right now while you have time to deal with it, or the process of standing in front of the Lord and he's going, you're lukewarm. Oh, you had a name that you were alive, but you really never really caught on. Depart, I never knew you. Which one's worse? You get to choose your pain. So it's kind of like I used to tell the kids, I can spank you and you can clean your room, or you can clean your room. Which way you want to do it? And then I'd get the big eye roll. But they never said, that spanking sounds pretty good. I'd like to have that before I clean my room. You know, I want to get to the end of it and him say, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. So ultimately, we're looking at the goal of Christlikeness. That's there are going to be a lot of blessings along the way. There's going to be that progress that you can look at and go, yeah, I'm making progress. I told Sharon yesterday, I said, man, we need a belt system. Now, we're not going to do it. I don't know that it'd be scriptural, but I think we need white belts for beginners. Then we need a test so you can get your yellow belt. And everybody has to wear their belt so that when you come in and you say something stupid, you do something stupid, we go, yeah, white belts, it's okay. They'll get it later. Black belt does something stupid, okay, that's a little bit different. There's a lot of blessings on the way as you grow from that sincere milk of the word all the way up to I'm eating meat now. It's a neat process. But the ultimate goal is to become like Christ. What did Paul say? 1 Corinthians 11:1. Imitate me as I also imitate Christ. Or you use 1 Peter 1:15 and 16. Be holy as God is holy. So there's your 1 Peter 1:15. And all your behavior I highlighted. All of it. Look at your behavior. And then you're looking for evidence of change. Okay, change is there. Look at your patience. Are you more patient? Are you more kind? Are you gentler with people? You can just look through that and other passages. And when you see you're making progress by every way you can without coming across too arrogant, celebrate it. Somehow celebrate it. And if you do have that friend that you're real close to and you can talk to and say, man, yesterday this and that happened and normally I would have went off. But for some reason I didn't. I think I'm growing. If you can celebrate it without sounding arrogant, find somebody you can talk to and discuss your progress with. I think that's wonderful. It's supposed to be a team effort. And on a baseball team, football team or something, when somebody does something good, there's a ton of high fives, there's discussion, sometimes there's questions. How did you do that? So the other teammate's going to learn. I'd like to have a little more of that mentality among Christians. But anyway, just keep looking forward. Keep looking forward. Keep looking forward. And understand, life's hard. It's going to hurt. Might as well get a reward for it. Last frame, obviously. We can become that better version of ourselves that's waiting in the future. It's not an impossibility. It's a 100% probability. The question is, how bad do you want it? I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again. If you really, really, really want it, nobody's going to stop you. You're unstoppable. If you don't really, really want it, any excuse you can imagine will work to keep you from getting there. Doesn't have to be a big one, doesn't have to be logical, it's just any excuse will work. That's the way it is. That's humanity. So we're getting ready to sing, I am resolved no longer to linger. Are you resolved to go through the fire and come out, as Job said, on gold, as gold on the other side? If you are, then stay the course. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. If not, it's time to change while we stand and sing.